They told me to take the flight. Take a flight, Grandma, my granddaughter Lucia had said on the phone, her voice so bright it almost made me cry. We want you here for the ceremony. You have to be here. It was the first time in over a year that someone from my family sounded excited to see me. I didn't even ask for details, just packed my cream skirt suit, the one I wore when I gave my final lecture at the university hospital in Madrid. I got my hair freshly curled at the same salon I'd gone to for 30 years. Even wore my pearl earrings, Alonso's last gift before he passed. The flight wasn't easy. At 85, my knees swell like balloons, and the airline misplaced my luggage in Barcelona. But I didn't complain. I just told myself, they want you there. They love you. I arrived at Malaga airport at exactly 12:17 p.m. That's when the waiting began. I sat on the iron bench with the cracked leather bag they gave me at check-in when mine got rerouted. People came and went. Families reunited. Children ran into their parents' arms. Balloons, signs, laughter. But no one came for me. I waited and waited. My phone was nearly dead, and no one was picking up. I tried Lucia. I tried Elena, my daughter-in-law. Even Javier, my only son. Nothing. An hour passed. Then another. My stomach rumbled. My knees were stiff. My back ached. But I didn't move. I told myself, they're just stuck in traffic. They must be planning a surprise. But then, I opened Facebook, and there it was. A photo. The entire family. Lucia in her blue gown. Javier in his tuxedo. Even little Tomas in a white mini-suit holding a bouquet. The caption read, "A day to remember. Red heart, familia completa." Complete family. Without me. I stared at that photo for too long. My hands trembled. I didn't even realize I had started crying until the security guard walked by and asked if I needed help. "No," I whispered. "I'm just waiting." But I wasn't. Not anymore. I stood up, legs cracking, heart heavier than my bag. And I walked. Out of the airport. No one chasing after me. No calls. No texts. Just me and the Andalusian sun. I passed the taxi lines, the shuttle buses, the cafes filled with tourists. I just walked until I saw it, a small, cozy-looking eatery tucked between two souvenir shops. Inside, a young man behind the counter looked up and smiled. "Señora." "Un momento," I said quietly, brushing the tears from my face. "Quiero una pizza." "A pizza, señora?" "Sí. Una con jamón y champiñones. Why no la cortez? Quiero comerla entera." He smiled, not knowing he had just saved me. As the smell of cheese and baked crust filled the room, I sat by the window. I looked at that photo again. And this time, I smiled. Let them have their ceremony. Let them pretend their family was complete. Because I had something better. My dignity, my hunger, and a damn pizza. But just when I thought it couldn't get worse, something happened at that eatery that changed everything. I took my first bite, slow and intentional. The cheese stretched like it was trying to hold me together. The ham was salty, the mushrooms soft. I didn't realize how hungry I was until I nearly finished the second slice. The waiter, young and curious, kept glancing at me as if he wanted to say something. I must have looked odd, an 85-year-old blonde woman in a cream suit, hair curled, makeup still intact, devouring a whole pizza like it was a rescue mission. I pulled out my phone again, the screen now at 5% battery. I checked the post one more time, just to make sure I hadn't imagined it. No, it was real. My son Javier had his arm around Elena. Lucia stood in the center, bouquet in hand. Her gown flowed like a silk river. Everyone was smiling. Everyone except me. No caption explaining why I wasn't there. No comment asking, "Where's your abuela?" Nothing. I had been erased. I thought of the day Lucia was born. How I had sat with my daughter-in-law through 14 hours of labor while Javier was in Valencia for a business trip. I held Lucia first. She opened her eyes in my arms. I even paid for her first piano. And now this. "Dice algo más, señora?" the waiter asked, softly. I looked up, startled. "No, gracias. Solo un poco de silencio." He nodded and walked away. Outside, the sun was beginning to slide behind the buildings, casting a long shadow over the pavement. I pulled my coat tighter. There was no plan anymore. No hotel booked. Javier was supposed to handle it. I tapped at the phone again. Still no calls. Still nothing. I could feel the tears again, but this time I didn't wipe them. I let them fall. One after the other. Slow and quiet. I wasn't crying because I was alone. I had been alone before. I was crying because I had fooled myself into believing I wasn't forgotten. That maybe this time they meant it. That maybe I mattered. And still I waited. Even though no one asked me to. I reached into my bag, pulled out a napkin, and scribbled a line on it with the stubby pencil they left at the counter. She waited until her hope dried out like the wine they never shared with her. I laughed to myself. It was dramatic, sure, but at 85, who was I trying to impress? Then, the door to the eatery swung open. A couple rushed in. Tourists. Loud. Carefree. Laughing. But it wasn't them that caught my eye. It was what the woman held. A bouquet. Blue hydrangeas. Lucia's favorite. I suddenly stood. Too quickly. The pizza plate clattered. The tourists blinked at me, startled. I didn't explain. I simply walked out. And there, across the street, under the golden lights of the plaza fountain, was Javier. My son. Holding his suit jacket over one arm, looking straight at me. My breath caught. I raised my hand, not in greeting, but in disbelief. My heart beat like a drum in my chest. Then I saw Elena step beside him, whisper something into his ear, and gently pull him by the sleeve. They walked the other way. They saw me, and still turned away. Not a word. Not even a wave. I stood in the street like an abandoned prop, something left behind after the scene had already been filmed. A car honked. I shuffled back onto the sidewalk. The pizza inside me churned. I could have collapsed right there. I could have shouted, cried. But I didn't. I walked. I didn't know where. I didn't care. I just walked. Away from the airport. Away from the ceremony. Away from them. Until I found an old bench by the pier. The sea wind brushed my curls loose. Seagulls cried above like they understood something I didn't. And for the first time in hours, I let out a deep, guttural laugh. A laugh so loud and bitter it frightened a dog tied to a nearby bike. Because what else was I going to do? I was 85, alone in a new city, wearing pearls and heels, betrayed by blood. But I was still alive. And somewhere deep inside me, something was waking up. Not revenge. Not even anger. Something colder. Stronger. Cleaner. A decision. I reached into my coat, pulled out the emergency card I always carried. For lodging inquiries, call Señora Amparo, Retired Teachers Association of Spain. I dialed. She answered. And that phone call, that single moment, was the beginning of the biggest twist my family would never see coming. I didn't plan to stay in Malaga. But then again, I didn't plan to be discarded like yesterday's newspaper either. Señora Amparo, I said, my voice shaky, holding the phone to my ear with both hands. It's Ginebra Bellucci. From the 1971 Valencia rotation. I'm in Malaga. I need a place to stay. Just for a few days. She was quiet for a beat. I could almost hear her adjusting her glasses. Ginebra? Dios mío. I thought you'd passed. Not yet, I chuckled, even though my throat was tight. An hour later, I had the key to a sun-faded guest room at the retired teacher's pensioner house, 5 blocks from the beach. No fancy sheets, no air conditioning, just the scent of old lemon soap and dignity. I laid on the bed, staring at the ceiling. My heels off, my pearls still on. I kept thinking, why would they do this to me? I wasn't a perfect mother, but I had loved. Fiercely. I stayed up with Javier during fevers. I sold my bracelet to pay for his first year at Universidad Autónoma. I kept Lucia for 2 years when Elena wanted to find herself in Costa Rica. So why? Why leave me out? Maybe I was just inconvenient, too old, too visible, a reminder of their own selfishness. I turned to my side and looked at the small bedside clock. It was 9:12 p.m. No calls. No apologies. Not even a lie. I closed my eyes and dreamed of nothing. The next morning, I stood at the cafe across the street with a warm chao in hand and the bitterest coffee I'd ever tasted. It suited my mood. Then, my phone buzzed. One new message from Elena. Hope you got there safe. There was a last-minute change. Sorry we missed you. Lucia says hi. That was it. No explanation. No address. No ride. Sorry we missed you, like I was a dentist appointment. I didn't respond. Instead, I walked along the boardwalk, passing strangers, couples, families. My eyes stung in the wind, but I refused to cry. That's when something caught my eye. A newsstand. And on the cover of a glossy society magazine, there it was again. Lucia's wedding. A full-page photo. Elegant. Smiling. The headline read, Andalusian royalty, Lucia Bellucci marries into the Estevez legacy. I stared. My hands trembling. I wasn't mentioned once. Not in the article. Not in the photo. Not even as grandmother of the bride. It was like I never existed. That's when it hit me. This wasn't forgetfulness. It was erasure. Intentional. And that stung worse than any slap. I turned, walked straight back to the pensioner house, sat at the little desk in my room, and opened my travel folder. I pulled out my documents. The deed. The bank letter. The inheritance records. Because you see, years ago, after my husband Alonso died, I put our house, their house, in my name alone. Javier begged to move in. Said it was temporary. I let them. But I never changed the paperwork. Never added their names. And they never asked. They assumed. Like children do. Now, I realized something. They thought I'd die quietly. They thought I'd disappear. But they didn't know what I still had in me. I picked up the phone again. Señor Navarro? I said to the old lawyer who helped us write our wills years ago. I need to make a change. Urgent. That afternoon, while Lucia sipped champagne and posed with her in-laws, I was meeting with a notary over WhatsApp video. I transferred the full ownership of the Madrid house to a new name. Not Javier. Not Elena. Not anyone in the family. But to Fundación Amparo, a charity for abandoned elderly women in Spain. Every brick. Every tile. Gone from their reach. I smiled. It wasn't revenge. It was justice. Quiet and clean. Let them throw a wedding. Let them drink wine I paid for. Let them stand in a house I built. Because soon, they'd learn the floor under their feet wasn't theirs to stand on. And I I would be just fine. In fact, better than fine. Because that night, as I sat on the rooftop terrace of the pensioner house with a blanket on my lap and the sea wind in my hair, something inside me bloomed again. A kind of joy. The kind that grows when you remember you still matter. I took one more bite of leftover pizza and whispered to the stars. Game on, Hios Mios. But just as I closed my eyes to rest, my phone buzzed again. This time from Lucia. Grandma, I need your help. Please. Don't tell Mom and Dad. I'm sorry. I stared at the screen. My fingers hovered. My heart beat like a war drum. Because maybe, just maybe, someone else was falling through the cracks too. I didn't answer Lucia right away. I stared at the message, rereading it over and over again. Grandma, I need your help. Please. Don't tell Mom and Dad. I'm sorry. 3 short sentences. One giant crack in their perfect little world. I sat on the edge of the bed in my modest pensioner room, the kind with a rickety fan that groaned all night and curtains that barely covered the window. My fingers trembled over the screen, not because I was afraid of her, but because after everything, she still came to me. I should have ignored it, blocked her, let her sit in her own silence, the way they left me to rot at the airport. But the thing about being a grandmother is, your heart doesn't always listen to logic. It listens to love. Even love that's been bruised. I texted back 2 words. What's wrong? Her reply came within seconds. I can't explain here. Are you still in Malaga? I didn't know what she expected. That I'd flown back to Madrid out of shame? Or wandered into the sea like a sad fairy tale? I replied, yes. Hotel de Professors, near Calle Larios. No answer. Then, 30 minutes later, a knock on the door. I wasn't expecting anyone. I opened it slowly, and there she was. Lucia. Still in her wedding makeup, though the liner had smudged under her eyes. Hair in an elegant twist. But her lips trembled, and her heels clicked nervously as she stepped inside. Abuela, she whispered. I said nothing. I crossed my arms and waited. She sat on the edge of the chair near the desk, wringing her hands. Her diamond bracelet sparkled, probably a gift from the Estevez family. It looked too tight on her wrist. I didn't know they weren't going to pick you up, she blurted. I swear, I thought Papa arranged it all. I kept asking, but Mama said you were tired. That you didn't want to come. I scoffed. So you didn't think it was strange that the woman who raised you, who never missed a piano recital or birthday, would suddenly decide to skip your wedding? Her face fell. I was stupid, she said. And now I don't know what to do. She reached into her little white clutch and pulled out a folded piece of paper. My heart slowed when I saw the letterhead, Estevez Holdings, Legal Affairs Division. I found this in Sergio's drawer, she said, her voice cracking. It's a prenup, but not the one I signed. I opened it carefully, and what I read nearly knocked the air out of my lungs. According to this version, if Lucia left the marriage for any reason, she'd walk away with nothing. No assets. No access to joint accounts. Not even the apartment they were supposed to move into. It wasn't just unfair. It was criminal. This is fraud, I said softly. Did you sign this? She shook her head. No. The original said we'd split everything evenly. But this isn't what I signed. And now I think Mama and Papa knew. My throat went dry. You think Javier and Elena were involved? Lucia hesitated. Then she nodded. I overheard them arguing. Mama said, she won't even think of running if she believes she'll get nothing. Papa told her to keep it quiet, that this was how things worked in big families. I sat down beside her. My bones ached, but my heart hurt more. They had used her, married her off like a pawn, controlled the narrative, cut me out of the photo, and set her up to be disposable. I took her hand. "Why come to me?" I asked. She looked up, eyes glassy. "Because you're the only one who doesn't lie to my face." Silence. For a long time we just sat like that. Then I stood. "Get your things," I said. "You're not staying in that mansion another night." "But where will I go?" she asked. "I have no money. Sergio canceled my cards already. I can't even call a cab." I smiled. "You'll stay here. With me. And don't worry about money. They forgot something important, Lucia." "What?" "I may be old," I said, "but I'm not broke. And I'm not done." That night, I made 2 phone calls. First to Señor Navarro, my lawyer. I asked him to start gathering evidence. Fraud, asset concealment, and potentially coercion. Then I called Carmen. Carmen was my roommate in nursing school. She now ran a women's advocacy firm in Seville. We hadn't spoken in 20 years. But she remembered me. "Is this about your son?" she asked, always quick. "It's about his daughter," I replied. Carmen was on the next train to Malaga. Lucia and I stayed up late, sharing a thin mattress and leftover pizza. She asked me about Alonso, about how I knew I was marrying the right man. "He never tried to own me," I said. "Only love me. That's how you know." She cried quietly after that. The city was dark, but our room glowed with a soft lamp and the warmth of survival. The next morning, Carmen arrived. Tall, fierce, dressed in maroon linen and a fire in her step. "You picked a fight with Estevez Holdings?" she asked, flipping through the forged documents. I nodded. "We're not just fighting them. We're burning their whole illusion down." And that's when Carmen looked up and said something that gave me chills. "You're not the only woman Sergio's done this to. There's a list. I've seen it." Lucia's mouth fell open. And I stood straighter. Because this wasn't just about me anymore. Or Lucia. This was about every woman they tried to silence. And now we were going to make noise. But just as Carmen prepared to draft the first legal notice, the pensioner house phone rang. The front desk called our room. "There's a man downstairs," the young receptionist whispered. "He says he's your son, and he's demanding to speak with you." Lucia turned pale. My hands went cold. And I whispered to Carmen, "Let him come up. Let's see what lies he tells when we're finally listening." Javier's knock wasn't timid. It was loud, sharp, a knock that had never asked permission before. Lucia tensed beside me. Carmen, calm as a storm that knew its strength, slid her documents into a leather folder and crossed her legs like a judge awaiting trial. I walked to the door, slow but deliberate. My knees ached. My pride did not. When I opened it, Javier was already mid-sentence. "Mama, what the hell are you doing?" His voice was tight, low, the kind of tone men use when they're used to being obeyed. He stepped in without waiting. Lucia instinctively backed up. Carmen didn't move. I shut the door. "You said you weren't coming," Javier barked. "You said it was too far. That you'd stay in Madrid." I tilted my head. "Is that what Elena told you I said?" He blinked. "I told her I was boarding the plane. I even sent a photo of my ticket. Which one of you deleted it from the family group chat?" He said nothing. I crossed my arms. "You left me at that airport like a bag of groceries." I waited. Javier. Hours. Then I saw the photo. Lucia added quietly, She saw everything. Javier's eyes narrowed at her. You're with her now? After everything we did for you? Did for me? She snapped, her voice sharp for the first time. You married me off like a business deal. You lied. You trapped me. His face flushed red. I did what I had to do, he said. The Estevez family is powerful. This marriage was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. For all of us. I stepped between them. She's not a stock. She's your daughter. He laughed bitterly. You always took her side. No, I said, voice calm. I just never took yours when you were wrong. He turned to me, jaw clenched. What is this really about, Mama? You mad we didn't give you a corsage? That you missed the rice toss? You forged her prenup. He froze. I pointed to Carmen. This is Carmen Pereira. You remember her? Top legal mind in Andalusia. She has the documents. And she's prepared to open a fraud investigation. Unless, of course, you'd like to explain how Lucia's signature ended up on a contract she never signed. His face fell. His lips moved, but no sound came. I warned you once, I continued, voice steady. I told you when you were 13, a lie will never love you back. And now, you've built your life on one. Lucia stepped forward. You wanted the Estevez name? Keep it, she said. I'm keeping my freedom. He ran a hand through his hair. You don't know what you're doing. The lawyers. We are the lawyers, Carmen said smoothly. And you're out of time. He looked between the three of us. Then his face changed. Hard, cold. The truth had landed, and he didn't like how it sounded. You'll regret this, he hissed. I didn't blink. No, you will. When that house you're living in, when the locks change, when the bills come, when the inheritance vanishes. He laughed, but it cracked in the middle. You wouldn't do that. It's your legacy. No, Javier, I said, walking toward him. You were my legacy. But you sold it for champagne and applause. I opened the door. He didn't move. So Carmen stood, walked over, and whispered into his ear. You should go now, before this turns into a courtroom. He flinched like she'd slapped him, and he left. Just like that. The silence afterward was heavy, but not hollow. Lucia sat down. Carmen exhaled. I walked to the window, letting the morning sun touch my skin. I didn't speak for a long while. Then Lucia asked the question that broke me open again. Did you know, Grandma? All this time, did you know they didn't love you? I turned, my throat thick. No, I said honestly. I didn't. Because I loved them so loudly, I couldn't hear their silence. She nodded, tears welling. I'm sorry. I reached for her hand. You're not them. And it's not too late for you. Then Carmen's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, frowned. It's worse than we thought, she said. Sergio's been doing this for years. Multiple women. Multiple hidden contracts. A pattern. If we act now, we don't just protect Lucia, we blow the lid off this entire scheme. Lucia looked up, wiping her eyes. You mean press charges? Carmen nodded. But it won't be easy. They'll fight. They'll threaten. They'll use the media. You'll be the spoiled wife, and I'll be the bitter grandmother. Are you ready for that? I straightened my pearls. Let them come, I said. I've faced harder battles than this. I survived Franco. I survived widowhood. I've survived loneliness. I looked at Lucia. You're worth the storm. And in that tiny pensioner room, With sun on our faces and the world turning just outside the window, we formed our own little army. An 85-year-old grandmother, a betrayed granddaughter, and a retired lawyer with fire in her eyes. But then, just as Carmen opened her laptop to begin drafting the legal paperwork, the power cut out. The room went dark. Then her phone lit up again, and a message popped up. Unknown number. If you go through with this, you won't make it to court. Be smart. Drop it. We stared at it. Carmen slowly raised her eyes. They know we're coming. The man stood in the doorway, tall, wiry, his black jacket soaked with rain. His hands were up, palms exposed, as if walking into a crime scene. His eyes darted between Carmen, Lucia, and me. I didn't mean to scare you, he said. But I didn't know who else to go to. Carmen was the first to speak. She stepped in front of us, calm but alert. Who are you? My name is Rafael Goya, Natalia's brother. Lucia gasped. You said you know Natalia, I said, my voice steady but cautious. What does that mean? He looked down for a moment, as though summoning courage from the floor itself. She's alive, he said. Barely, but alive. Carmen shut the door, bolted it. Start from the beginning. Now. Rafael nodded. Natalia disappeared after she tried to break off her engagement with Sergio. Everyone thinks she ran away, but that's not true. She was taken. I sat down slowly, my hands trembling, not from fear, but from rage so deep it burned cold. Lucia's voice cracked. Why haven't you told the police? I did, Rafael said. Twice. But the case was shut down every time. I was threatened, told to leave it alone. My father lost his job at the port. My mother had a breakdown. We were warned, loudly and quietly. And now? Carmen asked. Why come here? Because I saw this, Rafael said, pulling out his phone. On it, the video we had posted the night before. Lucia's face on screen, her voice shaking but brave. He looked at her. You're the first person who's dared to speak his name out loud in public. I knew I had to find you. Lucia was pale. Where is she now? Natalia. Hidden, he said. A safe house run by a group that helps trafficked women. She's not ready to testify, but she has proof. Contracts, photos, messages, everything. But only someone from the inside can go to her. Carmen leaned in. You mean someone from the Bellucci name? Yes, Rafael said. You, Lucia. We all stared at him. She doesn't trust lawyers, doesn't trust anyone. But she'll talk to you. If you go now. Tonight. The room spun. Rain tapped the windows like distant warning bells. I don't know if I can, Lucia whispered. What if they find me? What if they follow me there? She'll be safer there than here, Carmen said. This apartment was already compromised. I touched Lucia's hand. You don't have to be brave, I said. You just have to decide. Lucia's lip trembled. But then she nodded. I'll go. Rafael arranged a car, an old Fiat, dented and unassuming. They left at midnight. No phones. No trackers. Just handwritten directions and trust. I watched from the window as the car disappeared into the wet night. My granddaughter, stepping into danger. For truth. For justice. For herself. Carmen and I stayed behind. We barely slept. Instead, we gathered everything. The copies of the contracts, the transfer records, the photos from the pensioners' camera footage. All of it ready. Because if Lucia came back with Natalia's evidence, we were going public. All of Spain would know. The next morning, Carmen received a call on her burner phone. She listened. Her face turned ash white. Then she hung up and turned to me. "That was Raphael," she said. "They made it. But they were followed." My heart slammed into my ribs. "Is Lucia safe?" "Yes, for now. But the house is surrounded. Not officially. Just watched. No police. No flashing lights. Just silent shadows. What do we do?" She looked me dead in the eye. "We go louder. Now." By that afternoon, Carmen reached out to an old contact at El País, the national newspaper. We sent them the video, the documents, the threat letters, everything. They agreed to run the story the next morning. Front page. The headline: "The Estevez Scandal. Bride Speaks Out as Grandmother Files Suit Against Elite Family." I didn't care about the title. I cared that Lucia's face was there. That Natalia's name was there. That mine was there. We had broken the silence. But then, Carmen's phone rang again. And this time, her face crumbled. She didn't speak at first. She just handed me the phone. On the other end, Raphael. His voice was ragged, panicked. "Lucia's gone," he said. I gripped the phone tighter. "What do you mean gone?" She stepped out to make a call. Only 10 minutes. She never came back. I could barely breathe. "She's not answering." The others say a black car was seen pulling off down the dirt road. No plates. No trace. They think. I didn't let him finish. My knees gave out. Carmen caught me. I dropped the phone. "Lucia. My granddaughter. Taken. Because we dared to speak. Because we thought the truth was enough." I looked at Carmen, and my voice, usually soft, cut through the air like thunder. "We go to war. War looks different when you're 85. There are no swords. No shields. Just documents. Voices. And an unshakable memory of the moment your granddaughter was stolen for telling the truth." Carmen didn't argue with me. She didn't say, "Wait for confirmation," or "Let's be strategic." She simply said, "We go." By dawn, we were in Madrid. The Estevez estate sat on the edge of the city like a monument to arrogance. High iron gates. White stone. A driveway that curled like a question no one dared to answer. We didn't go to the gate. We went straight to the courthouse. And by 9 a.m., we filed a formal criminal petition naming Sergio Estevez, Javier Bellucci, and Elena Marin Bellucci as persons of interest in the suspected abduction of Lucia Bellucci. That filing? It triggered something powerful. Something they could no longer hide behind lawyers and silence. It triggered the media. By noon, every major Spanish outlet had the story. By 2 p.m., it went international. And by nightfall, the Estevez house had protesters outside its gate holding signs. "Where is Lucia? No more silence. We believe Abuela." Still, there was no word. No call. No demand. No body. Just nothing. We set up base in a safe apartment in central Madrid, one Carmen's firm used during sensitive investigations. There, I waited. Phone in hand. TV on mute. Carmen paced. Lawyers called in and out. Former Estevez employees started to talk. One maid from the Estevez estate messaged anonymously. "There was a girl. She cried a lot. They kept her in the guest house basement before. Maybe they're doing it again." It was all we had. We handed the tip to the police. But we both knew the Estevez influence ran deep. So we turned to someone else. The people. Carmen posted a video, this time of me. Raw. Unfiltered. sitting at a plain wooden table with my hands folded, staring straight into the lens. I spoke plainly. My name is Ginebra Bellucci. I was erased from my family because I loved with too much truth. My granddaughter is missing. Taken, I believe, by a man whose family built their empire on broken women. We are not afraid of you. We are watching. And now, so is the world. We posted it at midnight. By morning, it had 4.6 million views. By noon, #WhereIsLucia was trending in 9 countries. People from Brazil, Argentina, Mexico, even the Philippines shared the story. Someone posted a picture from the day before, what looked like a woman in a black hoodie being led into a warehouse outside Malaga. The photo was blurry. But the posture, the hair, it could be her. Could. We sent it to Rafael. He confirmed the location. And Carmen, she called someone I hadn't heard from in decades. Marcos Guerra, former police officer, fired in 2002 for exposing corruption. Now a private investigator with nothing to lose. He arrived within hours. Scruffy, intense, smelled like cigar smoke and revenge. I don't do clean jobs, he said. If your girl is there, I'll find her. But it won't be gentle. She's not porcelain, I replied. She's Bellucci. He nodded. Good. That night was the longest of my life. I barely ate, barely breathed. Every creak of the floor made my heart race. At 2:14 a.m., Carmen's phone lit up. Marcos. Got her. We screamed, cried, fell into each other's arms. She was alive. Alive. We rushed to the safe house where Marcos had taken her. When we arrived, I saw her sitting there on the sofa, her face bruised, eyes swollen, but burning with fire. She stood slowly. Abuela. I ran to her, held her like I was holding a miracle. Because I was. I thought I lost you, I whispered, pressing my cheek to her hair. You didn't, she whispered back. They tried. But they're not stronger than you. She had scratches on her wrists, dirt under her fingernails. But she was here. And she had something in her pocket. Carmen raised an eyebrow. What's that? Lucia pulled it out slowly. A micro SD card. I found it in Sergio's desk, she said. Before they grabbed me. We plugged it into Carmen's laptop. And what we saw. Video files. 14 of them. Each dated. Labeled. Each one showing private conversations between Sergio and his father, detailing exactly how they coerced, manipulated, and bought silence from multiple women, including Natalia. One file showed my son, Javier, taking the payment, shaking hands, smiling. My stomach turned, but my mind cleared. We had them, all of them. Carmen backed up the files. 3 copies, sent to 3 trusted legal contacts. We sent one to El País, one to an international human rights group, and one straight to the National Police. We didn't wait. We went public. The next morning, every major outlet aired the footage. Spain exploded. Protests at Estevez headquarters. #cancel Estevez. A warrant issued for Sergio's arrest. And for the first time in years, Javier called me. I answered. He didn't say hello. He just whispered, "What have you done?" I smiled. Corrected history. He cried. Not for me. For himself. Then I hung up. Lucia stayed with me after that. We bought a small flat in Cádiz. By the water. She paints now. I write. Carmen visits on Sundays. She brings wine and lawsuits. And sometimes, when I walk down to the market, young women stop me. Are you her? The one who Yes, I always say, I'm her. But it's not over. Because just last week, I received another letter. No name. No return address. Inside, a single line, typed. You hurt the wrong family. You're next. And I smiled. Because they still think I'm afraid. But what they don't know is, I haven't even started. You hurt the wrong family. You're next. That's what the letter said. No signature. No fingerprints. Just those 6 words on a white slip of paper. I didn't show it to Lucia right away. She'd already been through enough, kidnapped, silenced, and nearly erased from the world. But when Carmen saw the letter, she didn't blink. They're desperate, she said. Which means we're winning. Still, we weren't naive. We tightened our security. Marcos had friends, retired military men who owed him favors, and suddenly, our little flat in Cádiz had eyes on every corner. Carmen moved in for a while, set up a secure laptop in the kitchen, and treated our breakfast table like a war room. Every morning, we plotted our next move over toast, tomatoes, and black coffee. And every day, the world listened. Lucia's video interviews went viral. She shared how they tried to crush her voice, how Sergio forged her future, how my own son, Javier, sold her like a share in the stock market. Victims began speaking up. A woman in Valencia. Another in Seville. One from Bogotá. All with stories that echoed the same rot. False promises, silencing contracts, and the Estevez family's influence running deeper than blood. The scandal rocked Spain. Sergio was arrested trying to board a flight to Panama. His father fled to Morocco but was extradited 2 weeks later. And Javier? He tried to make a public apology. Stood in front of cameras and said words like misunderstanding, family conflict, and mistakes were made. But the court didn't buy it. Neither did I. The moment the footage aired, of him taking the payment, shaking Sergio's hand, and calling my granddaughter a valuable connection, his fate was sealed. I sat on my couch in Cádiz and watched my only child be led away in handcuffs. My chest didn't ache. My hands didn't shake. Because betrayal, once it's named, loses its power. And mine had a name, Javier Bellucci. The trial began 3 months later. The court was packed. Journalists, activists, survivors. Lucia testified first. Clear, composed, no tears, just truth. Then it was my turn. They wheeled me up to the stand, but I stood without help. My name is Ginebra Bellucci, I began. I raised my son with love. I gave him my savings, my home, my sleepless nights. I gave him everything, and he gave me silence. I paused. But what he forgot, what they all forgot, is that I also gave him strength, and I never forgot how to use it. The court went quiet. No gavel needed. My words were the verdict. The judge ruled in favor of the plaintiffs. Sergio, 15 years. Javier, 10 years for fraud and conspiracy. Elena, house arrest, stripped of her license and reputation. The Bellucci name was no longer whispered in fear. It was spoken in reverence. And Lucia? She didn't just survive. She soared. She became the face of a national foundation helping women recover from financial abuse. She paints murals now, bold, angry, beautiful pieces on public walls across Spain. And me. I started writing again. Not just letters or statements, but memoirs. Stories of survival, of truth, of war in quiet rooms. One of my essays was published in El País. It was called, Don't Forget the Grandmothers, because we're often overlooked, dismissed. But they forget, we remember everything. One morning, about 6 months after the trial, I was walking through the Sunday market in Cadiz when a young woman stopped me. She couldn't have been more than 30. Freckles, dark hair, nervous eyes. "Senora Bellucci?" she asked.
"Yes, dear."
She handed me a folded note. Her fingers trembled. "I don't know if you remember me, but when I was 16, I saw you at the hospital in Madrid. My father was sick. You were kind." I opened the note. Inside, one line. "Because of you, I left before it was too late." She smiled through tears. "Thank you for surviving." I didn't know what to say, so I just hugged her. Right there between the olives and the bread stall. Because sometimes, survival is louder than victory. Now, I sit on my balcony with the sea humming below. Lucia is inside, making coffee. Carmen is due any minute with her suitcase of justice. And I'm wearing my pearls. Not because of tradition, but because they're made from pressure and still shine. I think of Javier sometimes. Not with hate, not with love, with distance. Because sometimes letting go is the bravest thing we can do. And as the sun rises over Cadiz, painting everything gold, I whisper to the wind. I took the flight. They left me at the airport. But I bought a damn pizza. And then I burned their empire down. And if you're listening, if you've ever been erased, silenced, or told you're too old to matter, hear me now. You are not done. Not even close. If this story touched your heart, showed you the strength of quiet power, and reminded you to never give up, like, comment, and subscribe. Your story matters, too. Red Heart. We thought it was over. That's the cruelest lie peace can tell you, that a gavel can erase what silence allowed. The night after the verdict, Lucia had a nightmare. She screamed so loudly she woke the whole building. When I rushed into her room, she was curled on the floor in a sweat, arms over her head. "He was in the room," she whispered. He was there, watching, smiling. But there was no one, just the ghost of what she'd survived. "Sweetheart," I whispered, holding her gently, "it's not over because of the trial.
It's over when you say it is."
Lucia didn't sleep the rest of the night. Neither did I. A week later, Carmen knocked on our door with a strange look on her face. "I need to show you something," she said. "But you're not going to like it." She opened her laptop. A security camera clip, leaked, grainy, from the courtroom lobby on the day of the verdict. It showed a woman, short, neat bun, black coat, approaching Sergio's defense attorney. She handed him an envelope, whispered something. "That woman, my niece, Clara, Javier's daughter, Lucia's cousin, the one who used to braid Lucia's hair in the garden, the one who cried at my birthday last year, saying, 'You're the only one who ever listened to me.'" "Clara?" Lucia asked, stunned.
"What is she doing there?"
We didn't know. Not yet. But Carmen traced the transaction. The envelope held a flash drive, containing emails from Lucia's private account. Emails never meant to be seen. Some deeply personal. Some painful. A few angry outbursts written in the dark hours of her marriage, easily twisted to paint her as unstable. Sergio's lawyers had planned to use them in a defamation countersuit. But with the case lost, they buried it, until Clara brought it back. Carmen's face darkened. She's aligning with the Estevez backup plan. That family doesn't give up. They pivot. And now they're planting seeds for appeal. Lucia sat in silence, then spoke quietly. "She was always jealous," she said, "of my freedom, my relationship with you. The way Papa used to say I'd carry the family name. My heart ached." "Blood doesn't guarantee loyalty," I said. "You've learned that. So have I. But I don't want to fight anymore. Lucia whispered. You don't have to, Carmen replied. Not publicly. But we need to make a move. Quietly. Smartly. What kind of move? I asked. Carmen looked at me. We finish this, Ginebra. Not with rage. With legacy. And that's when we decided. We would use the very thing they feared, our voice. But not in a courtroom. In print. 2 weeks later, my memoir was published. The Left Seat at the Ceremony. By Ginebra Bellucci. It opened with the sentence. They told me to take the flight, but they never expected me to land on my own terms. It chronicled everything. The betrayal. The airport. The pizza. The trial. The pain. The rediscovery of power. But more than anything, it told Lucia's story. Natalia's story. My story. The book exploded. We were on the cover of La Vanguardia. A Netflix producer called Carmen's office. The mayor of Cadiz honored us for reviving courage in the silent corners of womanhood. But the real reward. One evening, Lucia brought me an envelope. Inside, a sketch she had drawn. It showed a little girl holding her grandmother's hand, both figures made of blooming flowers. Do you like it? She asked softly. I cried. Ugly cried. It's us, I whispered. No, she said. It's the women we were. Before they tried to erase us. And just when I thought it was all behind us, Lucia received a call. From Clara. She wanted to meet. Alone. And she said 5 words that cracked the piece wide open. I know where Natalia is. We met Clara at a small cafe near the port in Cadiz. It was quiet, unassuming, a place where secrets felt comfortable. Lucia went in first. I stayed outside, watching from a shaded table. Carmen sat beside me, one hand casually on her purse, where a small recorder was hidden. Clara looked different, tired, eyes sunken, but her nails were freshly manicured and she still wore designer heels. She hugged Lucia like nothing had happened. I wanted to explain, she said. Lucia sat back. Explain betrayal? Clara didn't flinch. I was trapped. Just like you were. They offered me money, Lucia. More than I'd ever seen. I was broke. Angry. I thought if I helped them just a little, they'd let me go. Lucia stared. You're part of the Bellucci name. You helped them erase it. Clara looked away. I regret it now. All of it. But I came because I have something. She slid over a flash drive. It's a security feed. From one of Sergio's private villas. He used to take Natalia there. She was kept hidden for months. There's footage. Conversations. Enough to bury the entire Estevez family for good. Lucia took it. Why now? Clara blinked hard. Because he's planning to get out. Appeal. He has lawyers ready in Panama. And if he walks, he'll come for you. She added, for all of us. Lucia stood. Her voice clear. We're not afraid of him anymore. Because now, you're on our side. Clara nodded. It wasn't forgiveness. But it was a start. That flash drive? It led to the final blow. Carmen submitted it directly to the European Court of Human Rights. Within weeks, an international arrest warrant was placed on several members of the Estevez Empire, including Sergio's older brother, who'd been laundering funds through Eastern Europe. The Bellucci name wasn't just cleared. It was reborn. Lucia began painting full-time. Her exhibit, Uninvited Guests, opened in Seville and sold out in 2 days. Clara entered therapy and donated her estate share to the Foundation for Financial Abuse Survivors. Carmen. She retired. Moved 2 blocks from me. And me. I published a second book. The Pizza That Started a Revolution. It was a bestseller, not because it was elegant, but because it was true. On my 86th birthday, Lucia threw a party by the sea. No big speeches, no gowns, just laughter, family, women who had once been broken now rising. And in the middle of it all, Lucia pulled me aside and handed me a small gift. Inside was a boarding pass, first class, destination, anywhere I wanted, and a card that read, "You took the flight. You waited. You walked. You fought. Now, it's time to fly wherever you please. You don't need a ceremony to be celebrated."
You're the reason I'm still here.
I cried. Again. But this time, they were happy tears. Because I hadn't just survived. I had won. Not by force, but by never letting go of myself. So now, I sit in a cafe in Tuscany, watching the sun slide down red rooftops. My hair is silver, my body slower, but my mind sharper than ever. They said, "Take a flight, Grandma." So I did, and I never looked back.